This episode is brought to you by RLD Group, on a mission to reboot leadership drive, eradicate burnout in tech, and help transform technical experts lacking people leadership skills from being a company's biggest liability into their greatest asset. Leaders in tech are burning out at an absurd rate. Ctrl Alt Delete with Lisa Duerre is a no BS conversation with a female executive who spent over 25 years in Silicon Valley. If you're suffering from the always on, never good enough, we'll replace you today machine called the tech space. This show will help you reboot your leadership drive. Here's Lisa.
Are you feeling emotionally and mentally and physically ready to work? I bet the answer in one of those categories is no. I know for me, that's on a daily basis. I'm navigating all of that to figure out, am I bringing my best self to work? Well, get ready for today's episode on Ctrl Alt Delete, because I'm going to tell you, we're going to dive deep into that. And we're going to look at how can you be mentally, physically, emotionally ready for work and life. Because guess what? Life isn't separate from work. We all know this. We keep thinking we can separate them and we don't. So on Ctrl Alt Delete with Lisa Duerre, I have the pleasure of having Kim McLaughlin here today with us. Kim, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. So excited.
Oh, we have been talking about this for a long time, friend, and here we are.
We going back and forth. And so here is the day, and we have lots and lots to cover.
This is the day. So tell me, how frequently are you hearing or seeing or feeling that people are just got it all together emotionally, mentally, physically, like just, I don't need this episode. I got it all covered. Does anybody need this episode today, Kim?
I think I hear 0% of the time where people say, I got it all handled. Like nobody says that. Nobody
Right.
says that. And it's interesting to me, you'll look back on I'll listen to shows or read books and they'll say, it's the worst it's ever been. And it was, 2008. And I thought, darling, you don't know what you're talking about.
Right.
I look at the front of the book to go, well, what year was this? It's like, oh, you don't know what's coming.
Yeah. I think that's such a good point, because one of the things I will just jump right in is that the world is not slowing down. It is not getting easier. The chaos continues. And for leaders in tech, what we know to be true is that they need to be able to really center themselves to be them best selves, not only to lead their business, but to really lead in their lives. So I'm just so happy you're here, because this is what you do for a living.
This is what I do. I talk to people all the time about emotional, mental well-being. And it's something I don't think we can talk enough about. I don't think we talk about it because literally there's so much stigma about it, but we can't talk enough about it. We have not talked enough about it. Let me put it that way.
Yeah. Well, for the leader who's like, listen, we have an EAP, HR has those programs, go get your own damn therapist. Don't bring this crap into my office. Right. What's the invitation today?
Well, that's interesting that you say that, because in my other life, I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist. So like I hold therapy dear to my heart, and I have been the therapist from they send the EAP, they send people to, and the person that got in trouble, their performance improvement plan said, go see a therapist. Well, I've been that girl. And it's been interesting to work with people in that modality, because sure, I can help you with that thing at that time with that person. But like every single time, I promise you, Lisa, like it's a wide range problem than just that one person. Granted, I want to say, maybe I should just say from the start, is that if somebody's having an emotional breakdown, if they're feeling suicidal, severely depressed, can't get out of bed, don't know what to do, having serious emotional problems, please go see a therapist. Like I don't want to discount that, because there literally is a place for that. But when we go into work, into businesses, and think that's the way to solve a problem, is to send the one person who might be kind of out picturing the emotional confusion. You're not looking at the whole problem. So yes, if you are suffering, have mental health issues, please go to a therapist. We're good. We'll help you. But if that's what's showing up in your department, in your division, in your company, we got to have a different look.
Yeah. In other words, if your only solution is send everyone to therapy,
Yeah.
you probably have a systemic issue you're not looking at.
Well,
Right.
isn't that interesting? But what happens is that we're, C-suite, division, leaders, supervisors, like that's the tool in your toolbox.
Mm-hmm.
The one tool, go use your PTO,
Yep. Yep.
your hour, your once a week, and please go see a therapist. And like, then we check off the box. We check off the box that we've done what we're supposed to do. And yes, for some things that's appropriate, but I think for the majority, there needs to be a different look.
I appreciate that. So I'm going to put a personal story here, and then
Okay.
we're going to take us to the bigger, right? So I'm a huge fan of therapy. I have been in therapy on and off my entire adult life.
Mhm.
When I burnt out, I built a team. A therapist was one, a nutritionist was another, somatic coach, right? Like personal trainer. I mean, I built a team for me to reboot back. And this was before COVID, right? My burnout, I feel old when I say when I burnt out. However, in the world we're in now, with so much going on and so much chaos, what I know for sure is in therapy, your wait list is long. Same with your doctor. So as leaders, if your answer is, hey, send them to therapy, you not only are they going to be waiting for months to get in, because that's the reality of today's world, but they're also not, that you're still going to try and figure out, you still not have to. Listen, you choose what you want to do, leader listening. The invitation for you is to think about how might you support them beyond therapy, because therapy is one aspect of the whole person and the whole system. So Kim, that's why I love we're talking about that, because the wait lists. We know what's going on.
Oh my God, I have people calling me every day. Please, Kim, please, will you? It's like, I can't, I'm full. And everybody else I know is full. There isn't the capacity. And I think there's a different way. Once again, mental health issues, please see a therapist. Yes, get on the wait list. And God, email me when you see the show notes, email me and I'll send you some places that might be a little quicker to get you in somewhere. But do that. But like, you're just not hitting the whole thing. And I think there will be so much more, wellness and feeling good about ourselves if we look at it differently, if we have a different approach.
Well, let's go. What is that approach?
Well,
let me lean in officially. So tell me, Kim, what is this approach we're talking about?
What is this approach? This is about, first, I think it's about asking people how they are.
Oh, I love the face.
Wow.
If you're listening in and not watching, Kim just made a face.
I made a face like,
I can't believe I just said that.
I can't believe that's really, Kim, is that going to be your big number one tip?
Yeah, is that it, Kim? Okay, we are done. Ask people how they are.
You know what, Lisa, that is one of my big number one takeaways is ask people. So what happens is that when there's mental health issues, serious mental health issues, there's a stigma. And truthfully, partly why people don't go to therapists is because there's stigma about being called crazy. You're crazy. Well, I've worked with people that have severe and persistent mental health issues that hear voices and things, and poor sweeties, they say, I don't want to go because people will think I'm crazy. It's like, let's move out of that and just go and do it. But there's also this point that when you're in work and not feeling well, there's still the stigma about we can't talk about it.
Absolutely.
I can't open that, right? It's, what do they call it? Opening a can of worms, right? I'm going to open it and it's going to explode. I can't ask those things. And what I want to say is let's lean into asking, how are you? How are you doing? So it's really asking, you really want to know, like literally don't ask if you don't have time to listen. Don't do that.
You have to be curious. Yeah, you have to.
And you have to be willing to sit down and go and look them in the eye, unless it's culturally inappropriate, or what I'm saying, like have some
kind you need to be present,
some kind of joining where you're together. But how are you doing? What's going on? And listen. And that's one of the hardest things. I know what people will tend to do when we're listening, I'm doing air quotes right here, is that they're on to the next subject. We all know this. But isn't it, it feels there's this really lack of trust then if you ask me how I'm doing and I start to tell you and you get probably anxious that you have something else to do, or anxious that, uh-oh, they're going to say the thing that I don't want to hear. And
Mhm.
what am I going to do then? And if you get anxious and you shut down by moving on to the next thing, you've really put out to the team and to everybody that you're not safe. You're not safe. You're not the person I can talk to. And so I think this is where it comes, where as a leader, we have to be open to that. You talk about this, the
Mhm.
getting curious about, well, if I have a hard time listening to somebody tell me what's really going on, if I have a hard time, I'm going to shut them down. So I wonder what's going on with me that I can't listen to
Okay, hold on. This
that.
this is magic right here.
Okay.
So a lot of leaders are like, I'm too busy, da da da, right? What you're saying is assessing yourself and your own capacity to be
Yeah.
curious and be present, because that's where it starts. It's self-awareness. It's not about the other person. It's about you and how can you hold that space and what might you do to check in with someone on a human to human basis. Right? I think
Right.
that's a brilliant point, because so many times it's all about them. And you're saying, no, let's look at ourselves first
Right.
as leaders. That's
Well,
awesome.
it becomes, we want to move beyond the checking the box. Did I check in with everybody today? Check, I can move on. But if it becomes the really, how are you doing? What's going on? Let me listen. Then that curiosity leads to so much magic,
Mhm.
so much magic about what's going on. And so I think as a leader, it becomes then, is it hard for me to listen to what people are saying? Right? If I'm on to the next thing. And what I got to say is this is also that piece about that work-life balance quote, right? That if, are you doing that at home too? Right? Because I suspect if you're doing it at work, you're probably doing, who we are at work is who we are at home. It's just, we're just us. And so
Mhm.
if you're getting feedback that you're not listening, then I would just be curious about what is that about? And let's start with if we're going to check in with somebody, be sure that you can listen to what they have to say. That doesn't mean I have seen it where people will do the trying to be the therapist or trying to be the supportive person. It's like there's a point where, an hour later, we have to have a different conversation, right? It's not about going on for hours and hours. And I have seen that happen in workplaces where the leader will think, well, this means I have to solve their problem. This, if I'm listening to them, I have to make sure that it's all taken care of. And I'm not saying that, because that can't be your goal to take care of everything, but just being that listening ear can often be the thing. And
Yeah.
just like, I really want to hear what you have to say. I have about 10 minutes right now. Let me know the top two that are your
It's so
things.
interesting, Kim, what you're saying, because it's so helpful. So, okay, I'll again, I'm a storyteller. Early in my HR career, I was that person who thought I had to solve it all. And I would say, how are you? And I'd lean all in, and then they'd tell me everything. And then I'd feel like I had to fix it all. And so early in my career, I had to learn boundaries, very active listening skills. And I also had to be really present and intentional with myself, because sometimes I would go through the motions. How are you? It's like the first, hey, how are you? Like, nope, I don't ask that anymore. Right. Unless I really want to know, because there were times I asked and I didn't have the time, or I wasn't present. And I know what the ramifications are in the perfect storm. So I've learned the hard way, and I can say, not perfect, always learning. And one of the things that I used to work on was my coaching skills, because coaches, right, they lead you to your own awareness and answers. They don't solve.
Right.
And so it became really clear to me, like, wow, the more leader as coach showed up, the better off I was at being present and listening. And I appreciate the reminder and how you're presencing that, because when I think about the world that we're in, and everybody's in back-to-back meetings and always on, never good enough, and the next crisis is coming,
Mhm.
it requires intentionality and courage to listen.
Right.
It does, right? And that's
Yeah.
no joke. This is not a small thing we're talking about.
But Lisa, you know what I think it also takes is believing that you have the skills. Like that could be the first thing, is like, how do I engage in active listening? How do I notice myself in the process? One of the things that I learned a long time ago, part of therapist training, talked about coach
Oh,
training.
we're getting therapy training. Yes.
Therapist training is the self, like the self in the process. And so I learned a long time ago to notice within myself, am I feeling, if I'm listening to somebody else, am I feeling anxious? Am I feeling sad? Am I feeling like I need to fix? Am I feeling distant? Am I looking at the clock? Like, what's going on for me in the process? That then informs me about what's going on. And then I can make my next right move based on what's going on for me. And that's a tough place to be in if you don't have that, right? There's no check boxes for that in your toolkit, right?
Yep.
And so really feeling confident, like whatever you bring to me, it's not going to have to take an hour. I can take 10. Right? Because this is where that overwhelming gets into is that if I think, my God, if I ask everybody, I have to spend an hour. No. That's not your job.
Yeah. Then you're
right?
never going to be done or getting anything.
You're never going to be done.
Yeah.
And so knowing that within that toolbox, you know how to do that next right thing, and being present, but being present with boundaries and with limits and with what's mine to help them access. Right. But also noticing, am I getting in the way? Am I, one of the things is that is, how are you doing? You know what? I really need to tell you that I don't like that we're doing, that we're working every Saturday. Well, what do you mean you have to work every Saturday? I have to work Saturdays. I'm like, oh my God. And then we go into this thing because I, as the leader, I felt defensive. Right. And this isn't to a bashing of leaders whatsoever. It's just, you don't have something in your toolkit to know, right? Your wellness toolkit, really, about how do I process somebody giving me feedback that feels like criticism, that feels like a put down, that I then have triggered, and my big button here, the trigger button got pushed, and I go, bah. And then people, when we respond back and we go, well, you don't understand, like, when we respond in that way, rather than with the curiosity, then we shut down the conversation.
Yeah, totally.
Right?
I've done it myself. I mean, I'm a parent, I'm a wife, I'm a business owner. Yeah, I have been there and done that. And I think one of the gifts you're giving everybody listening right now is permission to be human. And also to think about, okay, so the best thing I know as a coach is to get people to think about, when have you been triggered in the past? When might you get hung up? And what was that all about? So reflection is a huge gift to then prepare yourself for the future, right? So when I think about the leader who's going to practice this and like, all right, well, Kim and Lisa said I should ask people how they're doing. And then they're like, but what if they cry?
Yeah.
What if they tell me I'm doing it wrong? What if they tell me they're going to quit? What if, like that anxiety, what if goes like an overdrive. So like, I'm not doing it.
Right.
I think the invitation is to think about, when have you asked in the past and it's gone really well? And what was it about that you want to replicate? Because there's some really great insights when people have done it in the past and it's gone really well. And I know we tend to look at when it doesn't go well, but the invitation is to look at when has it, because there's a lot of gifts in knowing when it has too. I'm not saying don't prepare. I'm just saying look at it both sides. And go for it.
Well, the thing that came to me as you were just talking is noticing that anxiety within yourself, and like that I've gotten to where like I can hear it. Like when I'm getting anxious, I can feel it. It's like, uh-oh, Kim, you're feeling anxious, you're feeling upset, you're feeling your button got pushed. And so what I have to tell myself is take a deep breath.
Yep.
Right. That kind of get back in your body, and I don't have to fix it right now.
Say that again.
I don't have to fix it right now. I just, and just telling somebody, I hear that you don't like working on Saturdays, and I really get it. And I'm really listening to what you have to say. And I am going to take that away, and I'm really going to think about it. And I'm going to get back to you towards the end of the week.
Exactly.
Say what it is you heard, what you're going to do. I'm going to consider it. I'm going to talk to our superiors. I'm going to talk at our leadership.
Mhm.
And then when are you coming back? Because please don't leave it hanging like, well, I'll get back to you. Like, no.
Yeah.
Like, let's put it in our schedule. Like, I want to check back in. Could we do Friday at 1 o'clock?
Yep.
Because
Yep.
I really want to, I value what you just said. And I want,
So important.
I'm going to come back. And so you always can step away and think about it.
Mhm. Yeah. The
Right?
gift in what you're saying is, hey, you can ask, but you don't have to solve right now. Your next step is to say, hey, here's your next, ask how they are. They blurt it out. Then your next step is, thank you for sharing that with me. I really want to give this some consideration. I've got some ideas. And can we circle back on Friday at noon or whatever? Right.
Yeah.
That's like the script right
Yeah.
there. Right.
Yeah.
That's a great script you just gave. It's so helpful because
Well, it helps you
if
move
I
out of that
ask-
anxiety.
Exactly.
Right?
Oh, I better solve it now. No. You don't have to solve anything. Just listen and then plan for the circle back to give yourself time to process.
Yeah.
What a gift.
What a gift.
Yep. And then the other people can calm down because they're not so anxious either.
Right.
Right. And when you think about customer needs and tape outs or bug fixes that are critical, and they're just like, I'm just so tired that R&D is not listening. You know what? I can appreciate where you're coming from. Let me give this some thought. And I know this is critical. Let's circle back at 5 tonight. Like you can do it even in the same day. Just give
Absolutely.
yourself that pause to get, to manage your own stuff to then show up again. I think this is a fabulous gift you're giving the listeners right now, Kim.
Well, I think it's like, we can talk all about theories and we can talk about ideas, but if you tell me an idea that sounds kind of good, but you give me the steps, the tools, like if I can practice that, like then I feel empowered, right? If somebody takes away from, I hope it's like, okay, so I feel that anxiety in my chest. I feel kind of, upset that like I'm being asked to do something and I'm overwhelmed, I'm overloaded. It's like,
put one more thing on my plate.
one more thing on my plate. And it's like, yeah, I really hear what you're saying. There is a lot going on. And I value what you just said. I really want to take a moment and think about it. I want to value you that much. And what you just said, give me time. And I want to circle back on this date at this time. Then the thing I think is that, who are your people that then support you? Because I think there's a point in, all the ways up the chain of command is like, now who do I have? Right? Because some of it will be like, there's nothing we can do. There's nothing, I don't know, but having a listening ear for you to go then talk to your person about what you could do. Because then you feel supported and you're not all left with all this anxiety. And then what can happen is we could have a little bit more of a change in a culture, right? Because this is, circling back to what we talked about in the beginning about the therapy with the one-on-one is that, I can affect a change with one person that comes to me for therapy, but it doesn't affect the full system. It doesn't, it can't. So having this kind of thing that spreads throughout the system, like this is how we do it. Okay, this is how we do it, right? I call it like this idea of it being in the walls, right? It's just how we do it. It's just what we do. But setting this tone of I'm the person, if there's trouble with me, rock on, come, let me know. If it's a problem with somebody else, talk to me. I'll help you figure out how you can solve this. If it's something about a larger situation, okay. But then we start getting in the process of problem solving. I was listening to your podcast with Kiki the other day, and right, of the silos, right? And I was just thinking of that when we don't talk, we create our individual silos, right? Where we're just not talking about what's going on. And so this is that shattering of that idea of I exist by myself just to get things done.
Dude, that's like a mic drop moment. I exist by myself just to get things done. We are going to shatter that because guess what? You are in a system, right? You are working in a collective to get something done. on a much broader scale than just on your own. And I think one of the things you highlighted there that I really want to make sure we presence is find your person. So it's one thing as a leader to hold space for your team, but I heard you say, find your person, right? A lot of times, and for me as the HR professional, I was a lot of people's person back in the day, right? As a coach, I'm your person now, right? And I also always had people inside who understood, knew the language, knew the systems. And I think the greatest gift I ever got with those people were them being curious and helping me look at it on a broader scale. It wasn't, oh my God, so-and-so just told me they don't want to work on Saturdays. What should I do? No, it was like, oh my gosh, we have a pervasive problem where people are not having their weekends. What ideas do you have? Like, that's a different question.
That's a whole different question. And it raises the bar higher so that we can think more systemically about what's going on all over the place. And then how do we, once again, it's that idea of people are basically saying, I'm working too many hours. I need some time off. That's really what the message is underneath it. And you know what? They're telling you, thank you.
Oh my gosh.
Right? Because how many times do we, I mean, my thing back in my corporate experience, like if I tell you over and over again, and I say the same thing and it doesn't get fixed, like I'm going to have to leave, like, because I'm the person that will out stuff. I will say it. I'm the talker and I will say it. But then if I say it over and over again, and like, there's these things, and I even say it kindly, and it's not listened to, that's when I need to go. Because if I'm on the way out the door and then you finally say, well, we're gonna deal with that. And I was like, no, I asked, I said, I talked, I was open, like we're done. And so this is, I think, that kind of gut check of what's happening around us. And that when people tell us their truth, thank you. They're giving you information. This is, I mean, rather than, oh, dang, what am I going to do? They don't like this thing. It's like, oh, wow, there's this thing floating around. And probably if there's one, there's many. We have an opportunity to systemically make a change so that everybody wants to be here. Because that's ultimately what, your employees, this, Lisa, employees are your number one asset.
Yep, absolutely.
And I got to tell you, everybody knows, like, in this way, the corporate's working right now. I mean, everywhere is like people are booking, they're getting out of there because of this, that, or whatever. And like making it, I'm always in for, like, I know you're trying to take care of this, and I know we're trying to together to make this better, and I'm good, then I'll stay.
Yeah, I think, man, Kim. So one of the things that is showing up for me is when I'm listening to what you're saying, it's such a good, it's like cold water on your face, like a wake up, right? So when you think about, when I put myself in the shoes of our clients and I work with them all the time, every day, always, how many of them in their own way wish that they were speaking more truth to their upper management or to their CEO or to their board, right? So I think the first invitation is, what are you not talking about in your own space? And how is culture informing that? And then how are you recreating that for your team too? Because I think the invitation is, first, figure out what your team needs, because you need to lead those people. And then second, leverage your own experience of that and then push it up in a way that, my friend told me one time, this is an example, right? You're going to laugh. Hey, Kim, if I had broccoli in my teeth, would you tell me?
Yes.
You would tell me, right? I go, hey, you got broccoli in your teeth.
Yeah.
I would turn around and go, Kim, you got broccoli in your teeth, right?
Yeah.
It was like this person testing me, like, would I be honest enough to say you have broccoli?
Yeah.
But if you would tell me, then I'm going to tell you, but I'm not going to tell you unless you would have told me. Like, that was this whole little thing back in the day. Hey, Lisa, if I had broccoli in my teeth, would you tell me? I'm like, yeah, okay, well, now I'll tell you the truth, because you would tell me. Like, I think that's what happens for leaders in the middle, especially, like, well, I'm going to be great with my people and I'm going to tell them they got broccoli, but I ain't telling them upstream they got broccoli. Right. And so I think when you can create that with your team, you can see how good it feels. Then you might find the courage to be like, hey, I'm working all those Saturdays too, and this sucks. I'm making it up right now. Right. Or we're not staffed enough, or every time you have me cut 10%, this is what's at cost, right? Or
Right.
whatever that is. So I feel like the opportunity for any leader, whatever level they're at, is to like reinforce their troops first, and then find that courage for themselves to then speak it up and out and through, because you need to reinforce your team, and you have more control over yourself. But I believe you'll find, oh, here's some themes. Here's some reoccurring things that I should be bringing up.
Right.
So, I mean,
it's
I don't know.
being-
Did I land the broccoli piece for
You
you?
totally landed it. And it's like being willing to really search in yourself and look at what is your truth.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And it becomes this opportunity that can you imagine working in a place where like you can tell the truth and you're honored for it, and sometimes you're told that was, yeah, I hear that's your truth, and or maybe we can lean into that or whatever. But then, as long as I feel that you've heard me, that's a
Huge.
step in the right direction.
To feel
And
heard is the basic, right? Yeah.
it is, but the person listening, it's like we have to be, as the person on the hierarchy has to feel strong within themselves to hear other truth.
Mm-hmm.
And also filter in like, which is the piece, which is the piece that I can move forward. But we have to have this kind of sense of self-esteem, self-worth, self-love, this piece within ourselves where we feel confident. Because often what I find, what I generally work with people in therapy that are, kind of lower on I have people that are higher up in the, the corporate chain of command, and someone's like feeling powerless.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it's like, if there could be a takeaway for people, like if you could just have this listening ear of, okay, what's being told to me? What am I hearing? And I gotta say that takes a lot of confidence and self-love and being okay with yourself, that I'm not diminished. I'm not diminished by hearing your truth.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I still can go, okay, wow, that's interesting. Let me take that in. And I don't own it for myself, but I take it in as information. And that takes a lot on a leader to feel confident within themselves. It's such a hard job, right? It's such a hard job being in leadership. Hearing all of this, like, yes, I've been there. I know you've been there, and it takes a lot of confidence, but knowing that you're doing something that will create a systemic change, like literally, Lisa, what we're saying is just listening to people's truths can be the push towards a systemic change. That's huge.
It's beyond, this is a very critical conversation we're having right now. And I don't want the listener to be like, look at those two pontificating about why important this is. Like, this is how you create a high performing environment. This is how you create a culture where people stay and you have psychological safety. This is what we're talking about. And the leaders listening can there's probably more camps than this, but there's camp A, which is, that all sounds good. What the hell do I do? And then there can't be like, well, I'm so confident I've got it all figured out. And I think somewhere in the middle is where the magic is, because I can tell you on my own leadership journey, every day to today, even there's days when I can receive feedback without being defensive. And there are other days when it comes at me sideways and I'm not prepared for it. And it's like, I really didn't need that today. Thank you. And the thoughts are like, shut the hell up and book a meeting with me next week so I can handle this. Right. I never talk like that. But, the energetic of it. So I think one of the really important things here is to manage your time, and then to know when the right time is to receive feedback. Because, if people come in, do I have broccoli in my teeth? Code word, right? I want to tell you something big. You might be prepared. You might be going to the board in 20 minutes. That is not the right time. So you as the leader have the right to say, you matter so much. I want to be fully present. Let's book a time. Right. Or, hey, this is what I have right now. I can tell something's really important to you. Is 15 minutes enough for now? And if not, we can do more. Like, I think it's about helping that leader in that confidence space about owning their own schedule and time so that they can be their best selves.
Yes.
Because otherwise they're just going to walk around and be like, well, I guess I was going to take it all the time. It's like, no, you got a job to do too.
Well, this is that point where it goes also to that mental and emotional well-being, and that idea. What I was thinking as you're talking is that fallacy of that work-life balance. It's like, who am I here at work and who am I at home? And like, how am I keeping my best self? Right? How am I moving that forward? Because it's easier for me to listen to other people's issues, concerns when I am shored up.
Totally.
Right?
Yeah.
Another takeaway from therapy school, people, is that we, therapist as self is kind of how we call it, is that when, in my therapy days and times, like I would listen to the worst things you can imagine. Well, how do I take that in and not go out and kick the dog? Right? Because I hear these horrible things.
Yeah.
And what I have learned is that, and this is what I work with other people on, is like, how can I take care of myself? Because as a leader, I'm there for others, right? And so I need myself, I need my well-being to be there. And so then if I'm being snippy and kind of, you're on my last nerve, kind of is like, oh, Kim, check yourself. Something's up.
Oh my gosh.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And so this is for me as a leader, that it is critical. This is why I did the Saturday thing, because what'll happen is I'll hear up and down the chain of command, like, well, my bosses take the day off, but like they're emailing me when they're supposed to be off too. It's like, you got to practice what you preach. Don't email when you say to everybody else, it's your day off. You don't do it either, because you set the tone. This is how we work. That's that systemic part. So it's like, how am I setting the tone for myself and my well-being? And am I making that a priority, that work and home, for just myself, how I literally come to the table?
This is so interesting. So one of the things that we talk about a lot at RLD Group is firm leadership. So we believe that the muscles that need to be built in order, command and control used to work in the Industrial Revolution. We are not there anymore, right? Everything's coming at us. So the collective is smarter and more capable than the individual. And that as leaders, the muscles we need to build right now are flexibility, intuition, resilience, and mindfulness. And when I hear you talk, Kim, it's like there's a pull through on all four of those with what you're saying, because flexibility is, hey, don't just send an email on Saturday and tell us not to. Let's be flexible about that, right? Intuition is, how are you doing, and checking in and figuring out what's going on. Resilience is, I'm going to come back to you when I'm more grounded and have more data. And then mindfulness is just really taking care of yourself, like you just said. So, I mean, those are some examples that come to mind. And when I'm hearing you, one of the things that's, it's not like it's screaming at me, but it's really strong right now, is that it's one thing to just be like, we don't email on Saturdays. That's like the basic, right? Here's the next level. There are times you're going to hear from me on a Saturday. I don't expect you to respond until Monday. The reason you're hearing from me on a Saturday is because I'm traveling, or I'm taking my mother-in-law to the doctor. Like, to presence why you might hear something on that Saturday, and then to give the freedom that you don't have to respond. Do you know? Like, I think that is even, talk about building trust about how are you? Well, I have this going on and this going on. So I'm going to play catch up on Saturday, but it's not on you. I just want to make sure that when you land on Monday, you've got what you need.
Right.
What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think that's good. And also, if your team, I mean, this is that mind, I resonate with the mindful. What I love is all those 4 pillars that you were talking about, those concepts are all psychological principles. Really? I mean, so you're leaning into that. And isn't that where we want to go now, is leaning into that, rather than the command and control, is leaning into psychological principles that really work. And it creates a dialogue with people, and it also creates this humanness. Also, is that, and if I set the tone and say, I'm actually going to, I'm writing this email on Saturday. I don't want you to respond. Look
Mhm.
at it on Monday. And if they do respond to it earlier, call it out
Right.
and have a
Yes. Circle back and
conversation.
have exactly.
Yes.
Yes. Say more. Mhm.
This is the thing that I'm going to own this, because I've been in leadership director positions in mental health facilities. And, oh my God, I'm going to tell stories on myself. So I had leaders below me that I knew that if I sent them an email, they would do it. Like, I just knew they were my go-tos, and like, they would do it later in the day.
Yep.
They would do it at night. They would get it done. And like, that was a long time ago, but that was me taking advantage of people that I know would do it. And then they get burnt out because I lean into them too much to do the things in the off time that I really needed to support them taking their time off and not doing it. But I knew they could get it done. And it's for me as a leader to check in and go, okay, am I willing to call that out to
Dude.
them, to me, to first say, I
Yes.
don't want you to. And if they do it, I say, I literally don't want you to do it.
Yeah.
I want you to have time off. Like, what's up that you're not playing on a Saturday, or
Mhm.
what do you need in your emotional mental wellness toolbox, right? That you have more, that this isn't the priority. Because what'll happen is a lot of time people will say, this is all I have.
Yeah.
This is all I have.
Yeah.
I don't have
I
anything
like
else to
getting
do.
it done. Exactly. This is
Yeah.
so important. So I'm just going to join you and say, I too have done that. Okay. I think all leaders do that
Yeah.
because we
Yeah.
have these high performers you count on.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I appreciate about your share that I'll presence for us is we know in all of the Clifton Strengths workshops that we do across our client base, responsibility as a strength is one of the top. We have achiever and responsibility. They're always pulling through. Well, when you have achiever and responsibility, those are the people that work on Saturdays.
Yep.
Right. And so they're like, but these are my strengths and I can get it all done. And this is amazing. And I take ownership. They don't typically delegate as easily. And they also really love the dopamine of checking it off the list. So what I had to do with people like that, once I realized I was taking advantage of even just their strength zone, was I got an email system where I could write all my notes and then schedule it to go Monday morning.
Nice.
Because they were still going to work on Saturday. So I was like,
Yeah.
I know I'm telling you, and you're not doing it because of who you are and how you're wired. So I'm going to go manage myself differently. I had to learn that over time because high achiever, high responsibility Saturdays, if you will, burnout.
Well,
Right.
so I don't think I said this in the beginning, but I just want to also put out another, I like to call them doables, like a doable, like what could you do? Because like, once again, theory is all great, but like, how do we get into action? Like, literally, let's have a conversation at our next staff meeting about what is emotional and mental well-being to all of you. Like, what does that look like? And let's have conversations about this. And how are we going to embrace that? How are we going to embrace it? Because I got to tell you that when I hear how other people increase their mental and emotional well-being, it helps me. It's like, oh, I didn't think of that. I got to put that on I like that. I used to love that. I haven't done that in ages. Maybe we could do this together, right? I love hearing what other people do. And this is a great topic for team meetings, is like, who's having, we all like, who's having stress? Well, we can all raise our hands, but who's doing something for their emotional and mental well-being that's really working for them? Let's share it. Let's check in. Let's have a buddy system to check in later. Like, you're going to try that. I'm going to check in with you later on. I want to see how that went for you. And like, then once again, we change systemically.
I think
how
this
we
is
do
so
things.
important. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yes. And the thing that I know that I'll call out, okay, leaders listening, because I'm going to call you out right now. If you have your global recharge day and you're sending emails all day, you are setting the wrong tone, right? If you are taking global recharge day and your team is just playing catch up, nobody's recharging.
Right.
So your conversation could be, hey, next week we have a recharge day. What are people's plans? What are we going to do so you don't have to work? How do we work together? That's a different conversation than just, oh, it's recharge day and everybody's working, because that happens a lot and that is not okay.
Well, once again, that's what's built into the system.
Yep.
It's built in the system. And I remember me as a director, like, well, on the recharge, I'll do some work, but you guys, I want you to go play and have fun. Like, whoa, Kim. They follow what you do. Like when I'm not doing it, everybody else is not doing it. And then what'll happen is there will be some that do recharge and some that don't. And I got to say that the ones who did take their recharge day, what's up with them? Who do they,
Who do they think they are recharging, right?
Yeah, they're not caught up. Why are they?
They're not team players.
There becomes this us and them, right?
Yep.
And gossiping and all the things that go on. And like, let's just check ourselves about how are we going to support that emotional and mental well-being and like literally put it in action, systemically put it in action.
Okay, so I'm writing myself a note because this is so good. So let me ask you this. Okay. We've talked about a lot. We've gone from like system level, individual level, how to have the conversation, when to call a therapist, what you can do at an organizational level. And I heard you use the word doables. So I think I would love to give some doables right now with everything we've said, and for that to inform what these doables that you'd like to share. What are your top 3 doables from this conversation for the listener today?
Okay. So one is what we just talked about, literally as a leadership, and I'm talking C-suite all the way to all the ground floor level people, also board meetings people. Like I got to say, we could have a whole conversation about all this, about boards, and how boards interact and how are we doing this on the board level. So that can even be, and actually I've been on boards where we do this together. Okay. So, and I got to say it was transformative for the board. So, ask about your emotional and mental well-being. What do you do? What are you struggling with? What's your commitment for the week? And then have a buddy that they check in with. Okay. I'll check in with you next week. I want to see if you did that. I'm putting it on my calendar next, Friday at 5 o'clock before we leave. I'm going to check in with you and have that actually happen. I also think that what we talked about earlier. So the second thing would be is engage in the conversation. How are you? Right? How are you? And have that conversation with people to find out, get the pulse on what's going on. And I know it's going to feel scary, because I know they're going to complain about this. I know they're going to complain about that. Set a boundary and set a limit. I've got 5 minutes. I'd really love to hear, your top.
Yeah. One sentence. What's going on? Right?
Give me the one thing that likes the thing, because it'll go on for ages. Like, I just want the top, like, really, I'm serious. Like, give me the top thing. I can't work on everything, but like, let me hear the top thing and do that. And then the third thing would be is that idea that we talked about earlier is, as a leader, how do I check in on myself? How am I in the process of my own emotional and mental well-being? Like, how am I recharging myself? How am I setting the tone for myself? Because it becomes where our identity is just as the CEO, the division director, the leader. We're in all of these. That's who I am. And I remember how powerful that was, right? Who am I if I'm not that? Yep. Who am I if I'm not that CEO, division director, whatever it is, right? And so it would be that kind of self-reflection of who am I and kind of how am I with my own wellness? Okay. Right? Because the more I embrace it for myself, I'm going to put it out. One, I'm going to feel better. You're going to feel better. You're going to feel recharged, and you're going to then be putting that out to everyone else.
Yeah, I think I'm going to invite your order. I'm going to reverse it for us because what you just said. Okay. So number 1, check in on yourself for your mental and emotional well-being. What are you doing for you? Number 2, you talked about asking the question and connecting in. How are you? Right. And then number 3, you talked about really having a buddy and an accountability system and building the language into your meetings and your culture. So I feel like it starts with self. Nice. Did I get that? So let's start with self. Then we'll go out and out. Right. Yes. Okay. So with all that being said, which by the way is fan-freaking-tastic, the question
Yeah.
is, let's put a song into this mix. So we have
Woohoo!
a playlist.
Yes.
Songs matter. Songs can bring people joy, rejuvenate, reflect. This conversation is going to be labeled with a song in our playlist.
Yes.
Song comes to mind.
So I was going to tell you a genre, and I had said that at when I thought
In the
about
green
you.
room.
And
Mhm.
so I lovingly call myself a musical theater geek. I mean,
Mhm.
I just love musical theater. Like I will go to, if I could go to one musical play a day, I would do that. I would be that person. Like that would be my thing. So I was thinking of what's the most recent play I've seen and which
Oh.
is a kind of a music. So I'm thinking nobody else has picked this one, but from Wicked, Defying Gravity.
Ooh, okay. Why? What is it about defying gravity?
Well, it's going beyond,
Mm-hmm.
right? And if Elphaba in the play, it's like it's her being put down all the time in the play, you know, in the beginning of the show. And then she goes, gets bigger than life. And like, I'm gonna become bigger than life, right? And isn't that what well-being is about? Is
Yeah.
becoming more, right?
So
And
good.
also becoming authentic. And if you ever saw Wicked, Elphaba is green.
Oh, I
So
love.
she's a little, she has some stigma. They don't like her because she's green. And then they extrapolate that there's a lot more going on with her and she's wicked because she looks different, right?
Mhm.
And she's just like, no,
Mhm.
I'm going to
I
defy
love it.
gravity. I'm going to defy these laws of what everybody's put on me. And she goes through struggles and strife, and in the end is able to move out of it, but it was at a large cost,
Mhm.
right? But it's moving into yourself.
So, you know what? Defying gravity on epic levels in this conversation, because emotional and mental wellness,
Mhm.
right, can take you above and beyond and through. And that also will take your organization, your profits, your customers, all of it
Yes.
when you are there. This is a
Yes.
beautiful song. I love this.
Right.
So
And
good.
so, you know, people will kind of say this is that woo-woo stuff, you know, oh, it's just that woo stuff that like just, you know, oh, you people, you just want to have talk. It's like, no, this affects the bottom line. It affects the
Absolutely it
bottom
does.
line. If
Yeah.
you're having people that are leaving because they're unhappy or because they're not well, they're out. I mean, EAPs, my God, people are out on FMLA and they're out
Just
on
listen. You
leave.
don't have to
They're-
convince. In my
my
opinion,
God.
if a
So
leader listening doesn't get that this is a bottom line conversation,
I
that's the
hope,
first invitation,
yeah.
right? Because your people matter and you
Mhm,
need them engaged in
mhm,
order to make your profits. So
that's right.
listen, people are at the heart of tech, right? And people need to
Yes.
feel seen, heard, and valued. That's this
Mhm,
whole conversation.
mhm.
So 1,000,000%
Absolutely.
exclamation point.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. All right. So earlier on, you had said, hey, if you need help, email me. Like, I
Yeah.
love that you offered that up, but let's make sure people can find you in general.
Yes.
And then if you want to give your email, you can. But I think
Yeah.
that what's important is for them to know Kim McLaughlin and how do they find you so that they can like follow you or like what you're doing or connect
Yeah.
with you. Where do you
Well,
want
you
to
can find me on LinkedIn, Kim McLaughlin on LinkedIn.
Okay.
You also can find me on my website at
Feed your
feedyoursoulconsulting.com.
soul. Okay.
Feed your soul, you guys. It's all about
Hello.
how you're,
How about
hello.
defying gravity and feeding your soul, people?
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
feedyoursoulconsulting.com.
Feed your soul
And
consulting.
I would like, let's just have let's have a conversation and start it out.
I
Right?
love it. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I really appreciate so much? I mean, there's a lot here, but fundamentally the pull through here is you taking your therapy and psychology background and overlaying it onto business,
Yeah.
all with a pull through about just the human experience and how to bring out the best in ourselves and each other. And you know, that's what Rebooting Leadership Drive is about. And I'm really grateful for you spending your time here today, Kim. And for everybody listening, please like and subscribe, share this message, share this episode, let people know, do the doables,
Mhm.
right? And then watch the magic unfold because
Yes.
that's where it's at. Yeah. Kim, thank you for being on Ctrl Alt Delete with Lisa Duerre. I'm so grateful for you.
Thank you, Lisa. I so appreciate it.
Great. Well, everybody, until next time, share this episode, do your doables, and make it a great day. Thank you.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of Ctrl Alt Delete with Lisa Duerre. Head on over to wherever you find your other favorite podcasts and subscribe to Ctrl Alt Delete with Lisa Duerre. Leave a review with some of that 5-star love. And let's keep it real. There's a reason why you're listening to this. If you don't get the support you need and start making changes in your life and work as a leader in tech, you can expect regret and burnout in the near future. Lisa and the team at RLD Group have been in your shoes, sat in those meetings, and experienced everything you can imagine as a leader in tech. They can help you get kick-ass results at work without burning out, so you can be present for the moments that matter to you and your loved ones. Take your first step by visiting rldgroupllc.com. RLD Group helps develop technical experts lacking people leadership skills from being a company's biggest liability into their greatest asset. Find out more at rldgroupllc.com. Thanks again for listening. Catch you next time on Ctrl Alt Delete with Lisa Duerre, powered by RLD Group, as we help you reboot your leadership drive.